that affect working communities. Those continued barriers that we face.
I'm from Michigan, the home of the third shift, right? And I think it's clear that when we had clerks like in Clinton, Detroit, and Lansing that worked with our state secretary of state and other election officials to say, okay, yeah, we'll open up for no excuse absentee or early voting on the weekends. That goes gangbusters in the city of Detroit. I mean, you can easily you will see lines for 2 and 3 hours for people just waiting to vote. It's easier to prepare hospitality lines for early voting and weekend voting as opposed to on election day, right? Because now you're looking at 7 million people possibly turning out to vote. So I think H.R. 1 gives the framework for state elected officials and clerks to work under. That's what we were working to do in Michigan, was not to prescribe how our election officials should hold elections, but to give them the freedom to work in a broader sense. Our state constitution prior to November 2018 said you have the right to vote. That's it. So now with our 7 new planks, our Secretary of State, Ms. Jocelyn Benson, and other clerks across the state are now looking at ways to legally add on weekend voting, early voting, and how they can work together in a bipartisan fashion to execute no excuse absentee voting. If it is a mail program, that's fine, but I think our framework in the state has provided a nonpartisan opportunity for us to work together and have a better democracy.
I agree, and this goes back to what Chairwoman Fudge said. I mean, if we're serious about giving people an opportunity to vote, that everybody has an opportunity to vote, we've got to be more flexible, whether it's mail-in voting, early voting sites, all of those pieces, weekend voting, same-day registration. Those are pieces that help disadvantaged communities, working communities, as Ms. Fudge, colleague, and mine says, Tim Ryan, people who take a shower after work, and not before work, to those individuals who are working incredibly hard, we've got to give people an opportunity to get to the polls and to exercise their right to vote. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar.